Hey everyone, I'm Lindsay Smith in the Four Peaks Minibar, and today on Valley Vibes, we are joined by Dylan Hunter Carter, Digital Content Manager at 620 WTMJ Milwaukee. Dylan, thank you so much for joining us. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Really excited to be here. Thanks for having me on the show.
Of course. We really wanted to get your insights around Coach Bud, the newest head coach of the Phoenix Suns. So, word on the street is that Coach Bud is maybe a little tight-lipped, if you will, during his interviews. Has that kind of been the case for you? Have you noticed that with him?
He's pretty open about talking about the players, his interactions with them. I think private conversations is something he always strays away from. He wants to keep that closer to the vest, which honestly I think is a good tactic as far as building strong relationships with players. So he's open to talking about most things, but he's also pretty clear about where his line is. And again, once you get into that kind of private, personal realm, then he kind of shies away from it. But if you're just talking like X's and O's, hoops, what you've seen in the game itself, or what you're expecting from the team, he's usually pretty open about that stuff.
What else can you tell me about his personality or his mannerisms, like who he is as a man?
Sure. So he is very basketball focused, I'd say. He's there to do his job, get in. As far as with the media specifically, he's coming in to talk about, again, like I mentioned, basketball concepts, what we're seeing on the court, how players are reacting to some of these things. He does give insights, but like I mentioned, he doesn't like to give up too much because that's part of culture building and locker room trust, building relationships, especially with star players. Those are a lot of closed door conversations that he doesn't necessarily want to give an insight to. But as far as his open willingness to have conversations about things that are going on in practice, on the court, around the team, he's pretty open about discussing those things. Also really nice with community focused things as well. He's paying attention to what's going on locally, what's going on with team activations, whether it's through charity or things of the sort, his personal endeavors. He's always willing to chat about those things and lend his voice, his opinions on it as well.
Yeah, and I'm sure he's excited for that part a little bit extra being back home in Arizona as well. What's one of your biggest positives of having Coach Bud as the leader of your team?
He is as solid as they come as a coach. At the baseline, he's good at getting teams into a structure, culture building. That's something I focused on a lot in some of the work that I've done with him is, how he builds that locker room culture and making sure that the team has cohesion on and off the court. They understand each other. They get to know each other. I think a lot of that comes from his time in San Antonio, where he learned under Coach Popovich for a long time, even dating back to his college days. And so part of that process is making sure that the team is together on and off the court. They have a shared vision. They have ideas about how they're going to execute that, and they're going to follow through on it. That's what I think is the best part about his presence. He's not going to be the biggest personality in terms of getting crazy quotes out there or saying things that are shockers, something that you put on a quote graphic, but he is very boots on the ground in his approach, taking care of things at the lowest level in practice in the locker room. And frankly, I think that's going to benefit Phoenix quite a bit.
Now, what about maybe a negative of having him as the leader of your team?
Sure, I think he can get stuck in his ways. Maybe at times he's not catering some of his offensive play calling or defensive structure. Well, actually, not even on defense. On defense, he's pretty good about structuring around players. On offense, I think he could get a little bit better at learning how to utilize players in spots where they feel most comfortable. Coming into Phoenix, it's going to be a little bit easier because you've got a bunch of guys in, D-Book, in Kevin Durant, and Beal who can get their own shot, get to their spots. And so he's going to help set that up for them. But as far as running plays where the players are most comfortable in their spots and utilizing them in more creative ways than some of the more baseline ways, he might need a little bit of help. But that's also where assistant coaches come in to kind of help him spread his reach.
So, in talking about like players getting to their spots and things like that, we know that this Suns team, the Big Three specifically, is a pretty mid-range heavy team, right? But Coach Bud likes to shoot threes. How do you think that kind of give and take there of this might be my bread and butter and what I really like versus this might be what we need as a team? How do you think he'll navigate that balance?
I think the best answer for that is to take a look specifically at Chris Middleton. Chris Middleton is a guy who lives and thrives in that mid-range area, and Bud knew how to get him open. Off-ball actions, that definitely helps, coming off of screens, cuts, and driving back out. He does a good job of getting guys to positions that they need to, when knowing that, like, okay, this is my star player. I need to get this guy into his spot so that he can be more flexible. I know that's kind of falling back on what I just mentioned, but at the same time, with his stars, he's pretty good at getting to know them and over time feeding into some of their habits in that regard. So mid-range, I think, is something he wants to shy away from for role players. But when you're talking about his star players and guys who do it at that level, specifically, we're talking about some of the best in the world or even all time when you get down to KD and Book at hitting those tough mid-range jumpers. He knows that's his advantage for the team. You're not going to sign on to coach the Suns if you're not going to get those guys in the shots that they need to.
Absolutely. Overall, how are you envisioning his fit here with the Suns and the Big Three?
I think he raises the floor, and that's important because we saw pretty clearly this season that having that top-level star power isn't necessarily the key to unlocking postseason success. Even in the regular season, it was a little bit up and down, right? So he's going to be a guy who comes in, installs consistency. He's someone who, when he goes out with a team, he tries to put players in a position to succeed. Even role players, if we want to go back to his Atlanta days, that was not a team that was necessarily stacked with star power, but he knew how to highlight a lot of their strengths. Ball movement is key. And I think that would help this Suns team a lot if you're passing the ball well, crisply, clean passing lanes, taking advantage of mismatches. That's going to take the team a long way. And so I think that's kind of where it's going to trend.
Yeah, I mean, we did kind of have some issues where we saw things kind of stagnate out there for the Suns this past season and kind of fall back on the ISO ball. So hopefully that ball movement will be key for the Suns moving forward. What would you grade this hire for the Suns?
I give it a pretty firm B because he is a solid coach. He knows what to do. He's been at that championship level. I mean, even against this, maybe not exactly this team, but a version of it from years past. And so he's going to be able to highlight some of their strengths. Now, where I feel like there's still room to grow is that I don't necessarily know how he's going to take some of these lower level players and elevate them in the context of this team. Because when you have 3 star players at the top, frankly, accounting for most of your cap space that are kind of confining roster construction, getting the most out of, the 8th, 9th man, especially prepping for playoffs, that's where I get nervous. The other thing is he does not, at least in the past couple years, in the last few years here in Milwaukee, he struggled with getting out of rhythms that worked in the regular season once it came to postseason. And so making those adjustments on the fly, that's something that I think he needs to show improvement with to then get to that next level. And I think that's also an issue that Vogel had. So when you're kind of hiring a replacement who, he's going to raise the floor, but some of those playoff adjustments, or you're in a similar issue, that's where I felt like there was a little bit more of an opportunity to go out and get a coach who has a little bit more of that track record of making postseason adjustments.
Absolutely. Well, Dylan, thank you so much for stopping by and sharing your insights with us today. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, it was a blast. I'm glad to help out. I'm spent some years in Arizona at ASU, so I'd love to see the Suns kind of rally around and see Phoenix get that playoff hype again. It's always fun in the downtown area, especially when the Suns are rolling.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we went through so many dark days. It's nice to kind of be on the other side of things at this point.
Seriously.
Well, thank you again. Everybody be sure to follow Dylan on social at Dylan H. Carter. We'll see you guys next time.